Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Gianna and I cover true crime. As you saw, last video we talked about Sean, and this video is going to just be a continuation of that, and this is going to be a series all about Sean because he deserves it. He was a beautiful, beautiful 12-year-old boy that deserves to be talked about and to find out what truly did happen to Sean Daughtry. So I just want to jump into this, and I want to let you guys know that we're going to start with his Facebook page. It is called What Happened to Sean. This was set up by his family because they do not believe that he unalived himself. I also am having that same feeling. And I just want to preface this and preface this whole video by reading a paragraph that was written by Sean's family, kind of out to the whole community. And I think that you'll get a really good sense of why I'm doing this and what I'm doing as I read that. So this is from the Facebook page, straight from Sean's family. It says, "They will tell you we are crazy, unable to let go. They will tell you it was unaliving and it's a cut and dry case. They will say unaliving never makes sense. All we ask is that you pull up a chair, hear us out, and come to your own conclusion. We think you'll agree that there are way too many things that don't add up. Help us find out what really happened to Sean." When I read that paragraph, it was so powerful, and I just was like, okay, I'm pulling up my chair and I'm going to do what I can to help find out what happened to Sean. He was such a cute little boy. He had so much to look forward to. He was a great musician. He was great in school. He got straight A's. He had 2 brothers and a sister. He had a family. He had a mom, a stepdad, his siblings. His grandmother lived with them. They had just moved to this town a few years earlier, and the neighbors, they said that they were great neighbors. They didn't have a lot of time to make forever friends in this new neighborhood because COVID made that difficult, but everybody liked them. They never saw anything out of the ordinary. So when this happened and it was kind of brushed aside and not looked into the way that it should have been, it was shocking, especially to Sean's family. And it's especially, I think, shocking when you just move to a new place and you're kind of new in the town and you kind of get treated like you maybe aren't as important. But it is, I am going to state that they were a blended family, obviously, that the dad was a stepfather to him. But it doesn't seem like there was much separation between that. But they were a military family. They moved a lot. And, that can be hard on children. But it seemed like Sean was well adjusted into this. They've just been dismissed repeatedly and repeatedly. They refused to reopen the case. People refused to listen to his family. So they came to social media. And they were like, please help us. Please help us find out what's going on. And here we are. We're going to talk about it. So I want to go over this Facebook page because there's so much factual information straight from the family. Sometimes we don't get that, right? Sometimes we have to just go off of what law enforcement tells us and kind of piece the little bits and pieces together ourselves. But here we don't have to do that because the family is going to tell us their side of the story. And I do want to say, any speculation, any opinion that comes in on my side is because his family asked us to do that. They asked us to see what we thought and come up with our own conclusion. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to maybe be rough at points, but I'm going to talk about the whole thing and a lot of the hard details. So if this is not something that you want to listen to, please don't. If it's triggering for you, the unaliving, yourself, any of the hard topics that we can bring up. This can be hard for people, especially because Sean was so young. So if we look at the Facebook page, there's a lot of pictures of Sean and kind of pictures of the family and things like that. They do show some pictures of I think like they're not crime scene photos, but like photos of the crime areas of their home. So we're going to start with April 14th. This was the day that Sean was found. Sean was found hanging from the swing set in the back by his older sister, who was in 10th grade. Nobody should ever have to see that, especially not a sister, a child. She was a child herself still. She was 16. It says on April 14th, 2022, Sean got off the bus at about 3:02 p.m. He walked the distance of 2 houses to his front door. His grandmother was home watching the youngest brother, but was in a rush. As soon as Sean entered the house, she told him to watch the toddler, who was asleep on the couch, and she exited. Ramona had just pulled up to the house to pick up his grandmother for a medical appointment and called out to Sean as he entered the house. I'm sorry, guys. I had to like hit the see more, and it was a long post, and it brought me all the way to the bottom. So she called out to Sean and told him that she would call him from the car. He was to watch his brother for an hour while she took his grandmother to the doctor. Sean happily agreed. He loved watching the toddler. He said he had homework to do, and he would complete his chores before gaming with his friends. I just want to pause here and say, like, what a good kid that he was going to do his homework and finish his chores before he would go play a video game, instead of taking advantage of the fact that his mother was not there for that time frame and just do all of the things that he wanted to do. He was a good kid. He submitted his homework assignment online, one of which included him submitting a photo of himself holding up his work at 3:09, and there was nothing out of place in the house from that photo. From the car, his mother called him a second time. She had just talked to her husband, who said that their 2-year-old had been napping for almost 2 hours and needed to be woken up, or he would never go to sleep at night. Sean's mom called him and revised a plan and asked him to wake up his brother and give him a snack and maybe watch a movie with him downstairs. Sean laughed and said, "Mom, I'm pooping. I got it." And they had a chuckle. His bathroom was on the second floor. His mother called a third and final time. If you're a mom, you know that that's funny. Just 3 times in 1 hour. From the car at 3:27. So they left at 3:02, and in 25 minutes, his mom, this is the third call. Great mother. Sean answered right away. She said that she realized he had been excited to play his games and suggested that Sean bring his brother with him up to the second floor so that he wouldn't have to change his plans. Sean loved the idea of his brother going up there to play video games with him and said that he would get his brother all set up on the iPad upstairs with him and play games together. It was so cute. She told him where the iPad was charging on the second floor so he could grab it and get everything set up. At first, before he woke up his brother, he needed a snack. He took some Jared. It's spelled like Jared, like the dad, but they're peaches. He took the peaches out of the fridge. One of his favorite after-school snacks, and put one into a bowl. Sean's chore was to take out the trash, and we believe at 3:30 p.m. his alarm went off as he was preparing his snack, and he went upstairs quickly to complete his chore because he's a really good kid. He gathered the trash from the upstairs bedrooms and came downstairs and gathered the trash from the kitchen. This is where things get weird. The kitchen trash was never taken out. His Crocs were found next to the trash in the kitchen. No one in this house was ever barefoot. And in fact, Sean had a strange thing about being barefoot. He never walked around like that. He couldn't stand it. What happened as he was gathering the trash? Sean's 2-year-old brother recalls only that there was a friend chasing Sean around and punching him. He also said the man touched his arm. Was someone in the house? Who? So I'm just going to pause here and say, that's interesting. It's interesting that, 2-year-olds don't know how to lie yet, kind of to a fault sometimes. My little one will often be like, "Mommy, you have a big butt." He's 2.5. And so the fact that Sean's 2-year-old little brother recalls that there was a friend and that it was a man that was chasing Sean, he doesn't know any better that guy shouldn't be there, right? People come and go, there's people all around all the time, and this little boy, the little 2-year-old, his brother had no idea that people should or shouldn't be there. And so the fact that it was said that there was somebody else in the house by an innocent child who doesn't know better to lie or how to lie is really, really telling. I do know that, children do have thoughts that come into their head. I wonder also on the flip side of this, because we are going to look at both sides, right? I wonder on the flip side of this if Sean was running around and playing and pretending as if somebody was chasing him to make his brother laugh. So we'll just say that. I don't think that that's the case, but we will say it. Ramona's last call before she entered the appointment was the last time she or anyone spoke to Sean. Excuse me. He never logged in to play Fortnite with his friends. That's a video game. He never took the iPad off of the charger for his brother. His Crocs were found upside down next to the trash, and the trash was never taken out. On the counter sat an untouched peach. And then there is a picture of a peach, one of Sean's favorite snacks. So it sounds like the mother did leave him, but was in constant contact. I mean, she called it looks like 10 minutes to make sure that they were okay. It looks like she knew everything that was going on. So we're going to go into the next part of this story. Maria, who is Sean's older sister, had been at her tennis match after school. She was rushing home because her boyfriend, AJ, and his mother were picking her up to go to his lacrosse game. When she got home, the front door was locked. She rang the bell and knocked, and no one answered. Where was Sean? He was supposed to be home. She called her mother, who told her to call Sean, and advised that he was probably gaming upstairs. Maria was frustrated. She was in a rush. She called Sean twice and texted 3 times at 4:50 p.m. So I just want to pause here because we're establishing a timeline now. He got home at 3, the mom left. She went into the appointment at about, I think it said 3:30 that she went into the appointment. It doesn't say what time, but I think it was 3:30 the last time. Or that was when he had to take out the trash, and then she called shortly after that. So, let's say maybe 3:45. And now we're jumping to 4:50 p.m. So they would have been gone for almost 2 hours now. The mother and the grandmother would have been gone that long. So the sister called Sean twice and texted him 3 times at 4:50 p.m. and there was no response. She decided to run around the back and try to enter through the back door, and that's when she saw him. She froze at the moment, entering a state of shock as she tried to process what she was seeing. A person was hanging from their swing set, unnaturally, with a bag over their head. She looked around trying to figure out if she could get into the house before the stranger got to her. But she realized the figure was not moving, nor was it facing her. Utterly confused, she scanned the yard to make sure she wasn't alone, and locked eyes with a landscaper mowing the neighbor's yard, who was also very puzzled. Keep in mind that landscaper. It seems weird that she locked eyes with the landscaper mowing the neighbor's lawn while Sean was hanging from the swing set and he didn't see him. I don't know. He was puzzled and just standing there. Suddenly, confident since she wasn't alone, she came within a 15-foot radius and called out, "Hello?" But there was no response. Thoughts chaotically ran through her mind as she tried to process what she was seeing. The hands and legs looked so familiar. It was Sean. Hysterically, she ran up to her brother and confirmed it was him by looking closely at his hands, which were both bound to his waist by a belt, and discolored from lack of circulation. Screaming, she lifted her brother with one arm in hopes of releasing the pressure from his head, and called 911 at 4:54 p.m. With her other hand, she removed him from the hanging position by simply lifting the shoelace-type string over his head with 3 fingers, brought him down to the ground, and performed CPR for 6 minutes with the assistance of the 911 dispatcher until EMS took over. Sean was dressed in men's clothing, his arms so tightly bound to his waist the EMS made a note of how difficult it had been to remove it. They had to unbuckle and move it so they could administer shocks with an AED. He had a bag over his head, and his glasses were broken and found in the vicinity. His eyesight was so poor, he couldn't see without his glasses. How could this clumsy 12-year-old suspend himself in such an awkward position with a bag on his head while his hands were belted so tightly to his waist without being able to see? This is also kind of what I mentioned in my previous video. It's, to me, impossible. He was suspended by his chin, not his neck. At any point, he could have stood up and saved himself, but he did not. Okay, so that tells me that it wasn't a, I don't know what I can say word-wise, but it wasn't a hanging. Because she's saying that it went like under his chin and was holding him up by his chin, not by his neck where it would have. So to me it sounds like he was already not alive when he was strung up. It's very hard to say these words about a 12-year-old, honestly. It's hard. Oh, sorry guys, my light on my computer is what is shining on me and it keeps going out. He was suspended by his chin, not his neck. At any point, he could have stood up and saved himself, but he did not. His feet were dragging on the ground, and his bent knees were mere inches from the ground as well. In fact, normal hanging injuries weren't present. It looked like he had been killed elsewhere and propped up outside, like an ornament, displayed in men's clothing and suspended like a doll. His knees were so close to the ground that you could see the bottom of his feet. And they were clean. How could he have perfectly clean feet if he had walked barefoot from the house to the swing? Through their swampy spring yard. It was April. And the whole yard was mud and dust. So I live in New York, upstate New York, and so our conditions are very similar. And there's no way he walked outside without having any dirt on his feet, because we would have just gotten rid of snow, and everything would have been damp and muddy from the snow and the melting of the snow. So, especially in the backyard, our backyards don't dry out until end of May. His mother arrived home from the appointment to find her house swarming with emergency medical personnel. She jumped out of her SUV and ran towards the commotion. She saw them working on Sean, and in that instant the life she had lived ceased to exist. Sorry, this is hard to read about another mother and a little boy. As Sean's body jumped through the air, with each shock from the AED, she knew they were too late. Through heroic efforts from Maria, they were able to get a heartbeat, but there wasn't enough electricity to sustain it. They would find out later that Sean had actually been gone for some time, and there was no chance he could have been revived. A belt that completely immobilized his arms and hands, a bag over his head, broken glasses, suspended by the chin, clean feet dragging with knees almost touching the ground, a string so thin and loose it didn't even need to be cut, men's clothing, and Sean was gone. This is a hard one. And a very maddening and frustrating one. I don't... Ugh. I think this is where we're going to leave off for this video. This is not easy. So yeah. If you guys have any questions or you have any requests, please put them in the comment box below. Please subscribe. And I plan on doing some lives about this as well. So until next time, we'll go through a few more posts and keep trucking on about Sean's story. But I really want to I don't want to take the time, or not take the time, to let these parts of the story sink in and just kind of gloss over them in one short video. I want it to sit with us, and I want us to really think about the parts that we have read and come back to this. So until tomorrow, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of whatever part of your day you're watching this in. And always remember to keep sending out those good frequencies and vibes. Bye, guys.